.29 back on the Sports Fix. You're listening to ESPN Radio and ESPNGo1.com. Adam Reardon, Chris Doering with you. We're going to look forward to having our good friend DMoney of CanesInSight.com on us in just a moment as we effort. We got him now. All right, perfect. DMoney, CanesInsight.com. He's an owner, writer, contributor, podcast host, does a little bit of everything out there, down there in Miami. Danny, good morning. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you guys doing?
Man, doing quite well now. As we get closer and closer to the season, sometimes strange things happen. Matter of fact, I think we've seen more, fall, transfers than I think we've ever seen before in college football, especially inside the state. To me, it just seems like we're this close to the season. Guys are leaving school and trying to find somewhere else. That's happened here at Florida with Jawan Story. And now Miami's got a guy who apparently has left for the defensive backfield.
Yeah, Vernon Davis is transferring to West Virginia. As you know, Miami brought in a ton of cornerbacks this year, starting with Tracy Howard, number one cornerback in the country, Ladarius Gunter, a junior college transfer with 3 years to play, Larry Hope, Nate Dortch from the Fort Myers area, Antonio Crawford from Tampa Plant. So a whole lot of corners. There was going to be tight competition there. You knew some people were going to kind of fall to the margins and end up transferring. Didn't expect it to be this early. There's still so much, football to be played. But I guess Vernon felt that the best opportunity for him was elsewhere. It was kind of a shock to people because he's a Miami kid, so there's no homesickness involved. But, transferring to a school like West Virginia, obviously landing on his feet, it'll be kind of a redshirt year for him. He gets to do the whole first semester up there, still drop ad week for most colleges. So, I think the timing for him was good if he was looking to get out. And as far as Miami goes, this is just a sign that there's finally competition at the cornerback position. I know a couple of years ago, if you would have told somebody that a corner would transfer out of Miami, people would be going nuts just because we didn't have anybody. Last year we were starting Wake Forest rejects and converted running backs at cornerback positions. So it says a lot about how far the depth has come in just a year that a guy like Vernon Davis will transfer because of too much competition.
Miami wrapped up their preseason camp now as I guess school has begun down there in Coral Gables. I want to hear your overall impressions of how the second year under Al Golden's preseason camp went. And also I saw where Chantrell Henderson returned some good news in terms of some injuries that are guys getting back on the practice field.
Yeah, well, starting with Chantrell, he's back. It's going to take him a long time to adjust. I mean, he missed close to 20 practices, basically all of camp. The good thing is he's in pretty good shape, not necessarily football shape, but he's not trying to lose pounds. He's at the right weight. It'll be some time for him to get involved, and true freshman in Eric Flowers has kind of seized that right tackle spot. So we'll see where Chantrell goes, but obviously it's better to have him on the practice field than anywhere else. As far as how the camp went, I mean, obviously less distractions this year. Last year was the Shapiro scandal hit just around this time. So obviously that was a huge wrench in what Al Golden was trying to do. And he was still trying to kind of convert people. He had guys that he didn't recruit that weren't sure about him, so he was still trying to kind of preach to the unconverted, whereas now his guys that are more in tune with what he's doing. So I think he's putting less effort on trying to convert guys and reach out to guys and more just trying to develop them and move the program along. I really like what I'm seeing from Jed Fish's offense in year two. Guys are more familiar with it. He's had about 2 years with Stephen Morris to develop him. He doesn't have to teach people the offense. They're playing faster. And I really think with Jed Fish, what I saw with my limited exposure in camp and what I've been reading, expect to see a lot of what you saw with Jay Cutler and Mike Shanahan in the 2007-2008 era with the Denver Broncos. A lot of quarterback movement, bootlegs, sprint outs. Fish has been on record basically saying that our offense is that Shanahan offense, and Morris has a lot in common with Cutler in terms of his mobility and arm strength. So as far as year two, I think you should see a lot of strides with the offense in particular, just because of where the personnel is and where Jed Fish is installing the offense.
DMoney, CanesInsight.com, our guest here on the Sports Fix, talking Miami Hurricane football as we get ready for the season to kick off. Now, you mentioned Jed Fish. My question about him is his longevity at Miami. Obviously, Al Golden's committed, and he's obviously, he's going to be there for a while. It appears at this time. What about Jed Fish? Is he a guy that over the next couple of years will stay at Miami? I think one of the big things that Miami had to deal with, especially in the Ja'Cory Harris era, was the turnover at the offensive coordinator spot. Jed Fish, is this a long-term deal for him, or is he a guy that's going to look for bigger fish to fry down the road?
Well, he had some rumors coming out this past year as far as the Chicago Bears and other teams are looking at him possibly as a quarterback coach or even offensive coordinator. We don't know how far along those talks went, but the fact that he had those opportunities and still stayed even after the Shapiro scandal and knowing what he knows about that now says to me that he's interested in becoming eventually a college head coach, and that's really what he's aiming for. I think this year could be a big year for him as far as putting his name on the national map. I think the offense should be the strength of the team this year. He got positive reviews for what he did with Ja'Cory Harris last year, sort of a rehabilitation project. Now with Stephen Morris, this is a guy that he's actually developing, almost from the beginning. So the way Stephen Morris performs will be a referendum on Jed Fish. And I think ultimately, if we're going to lose Jed Fish, it'll be to a college head coaching job. And before he gets that kind of offer, he's obviously going to need to show a little more at the University of Miami. But I think people are excited about him. I've certainly liked what I've seen from him, and I'm encouraged by the way he's responded to those NFL rumors.
I don't know if this speaks to how I vet some of my friends and all, but I'm surrounded by a bunch of Miami Hurricane guys that are people I consider to be pretty good friends, and one of them, one here on the radio, one that I have another friendship with, came to me yesterday just completely upset that the Vegas folks had installed Boston College as a favorite in that opening game against the Hurricanes. With as much issues as been going on up there in Boston College and guys getting kicked off the team and everything else, do you think that line, not that lines matter a bunch, but just the overall opinion that Miami's going to go into that game as an underdog, do you think that's an accurate assessment at this point in time?
Well, I can see where they're coming from. For one thing, Boston College came down to Miami and beat the University of Miami last year in the last game of the season. So the last two games either team played was against each other, and Boston College came out on top. Miami also lost a ton of talent to the NFL, and it's going to be a very young team, a lot of turnover, relying on young players on the road in their first game, obviously always kind of a sketchy situation. Personally, that's a line that I'm going to be playing. I usually don't like to bet on Miami. I don't like to bet on Miami. It's kind of a no-win situation. If you lose twice and it really hurts. You're not going to get more excited about the game anyways. But in this case, I do think Miami is just a much more talented team. The big difference last year when you look at the Boston College game, Boston College was a lot more physical up front, which they probably still will be a more physical team, but Miami's made tremendous gains in strength. That's probably their biggest improvement from last year is how much stronger they've gotten in the trenches. Just you look at their weight room numbers as far as guys that could bench 225 a certain amount of times, over 20 times, over 30 times. Those numbers have gone through the roof. So I think they'll be a sturdier up front. And last year, Ja'Cory Harris had by far the worst game of the season against Boston College, threw 4 interceptions, pretty much doubled his season total in one game. So I think that's kind of an anomaly. And then also Luke Kuechly, the great linebacker for Boston College, who really dominated that game, had an interception for a touchdown, made every tackle, and was basically the best athlete on the field. He's gone on to the next level. So when you look back at the game, I think the advantages that Boston College had won't come into play this year, and I think Miami is the more talented team.
Hey, before we let you go, I can't help it, man. You go online, you start reading stuff about practices and whatnot. Duke Johnson, as a true freshman, continues to impress on the offensive side of the football. Each practice that goes by, I think people believe he's going to get more and more touches of the ball during the regular season. Will have more and more impact. How special can this kid be? And I don't mean on a national level, but just compare him to maybe other Miami Hurricane running backs of the past. At what level can he sort of be?
I think he could be right there with him. I mean, when you look at the great Miami running backs, the thing that really separated them was that they were all around backs, all around football players. Edgar James, Clinton Portis, Frank Gore. I'm thinking of the new era. Willis McGahee. Those are basically 4 of the top 5 blocking backs as far as pass blocking in the NFL during their tenure. They could catch the ball. They could make big plays. They could run inside. They were just really great all-around players, and they had that confident mentality. They weren't – you look at them as divas, like a guy like Clint Portis obviously out in the spotlight, but he really appreciated the blue-collar elements of the game, and he was very confident in what he could do and just had a great makeup. I think Duke is cut from the same cloth. Maybe a little smaller than those guys, but still can run between the tackles, make big plays, a willing blocker, great receiver. And I think he's more along the lines of those guys than a guy like Lamar Miller, who's also a very talented back, but maybe a little more one-dimensional. So I would put him right there with those guys as far as what he's done to this point, what he did in high school against great competition, what he's done in camp. And, the more you learn about how he prepares, how he competes, and just the way he carries himself, it starts reminding you of some of those great backs. So,
Danny,
the expectations are sky high.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We got to get out of here now, but I want to encourage people to go to the website, CanesInsight.com. I thought you never want to focus on the one that got away, but I thought you had a nice feature there, a 2009 class that could have been for the Canes, as well as the 2008 class that could have been. I thought that's kind of a unique look as we look up to the season at some guys that perhaps could have been Miami Hurricane players and the impact that they would have made there.
Appreciate it. Hopefully that list is a lot shorter in 4 or 3 years,
exactly,
but
right.
We'll see.
We'll go through that list off the air, and I'll explain why these things happen, by the way. All right? I see one guy in particular there on the front.
Well, I know why Patrick Johnson didn't end up there. I know that.
Hey, Danny Money, CanesInsight.com. As always, man, you're the best, and really appreciate your time, my friend.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Coming up next, we'll turn our attention to Tallahassee. Ira Schofel will join us next to talk about the Seminoles. You're listening.